A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wishing you all a very happy Pharmacist Day. On behalf of NMIMS University Student Council, I am Manaswini Vedila, your host for today. On today's occasion, we have with us Dr. Meena Chintamaneni, the Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor of SVKM's Narsi Monge Institute of Management Studies. Dr. Meena Chintamaneni has been a vital part of academics for about 2 decades, adding value in every way possible. She is the epitome of knowledge, ethics, and self-discipline. In her long years of association with this university, she has not just held various roles and responsibilities, but also has been a major contributor to the students' development. Meena ma'am is often referred to as our pillar of strength and a mentor. I would now request Meena ma'am to address our audience.
Hello, everybody. So, being the World Pharmacist Day, that's the 25th of September, which is being celebrated as World Pharmacist Day, not only this year, but year after year, we've been celebrating this day as a Pharmacist Day. And all pharmacists, it's not only pan-India, but globally, this is the day where we celebrate it as our day. Not because we try and remind ourselves that we are pharmacists on that particular day, but it's just for us to get all the, it's setting up a reminder within ourselves to what was the objective of we being a pharmacist. No matter why you all joined the pharmacy course, that's a past history. But the moment you get yourself a degree in pharmacy, and the moment we get the pharmacist oath to be sworn in, it needs to be within our system where we breathe to live for the betterment of the society. And that's the reason the moment the University Student Council requested if I could speak a few words to our fellow pharmacists, and of course to all the students, and of course to whoever would listen to this particular session, I did not think for a second, but I readily agreed to, was just because of the connect of pharmacy to, which is very close to my heart. Because it's not because I am a pharmacist, it is because we've been living on every day since we got ourselves within the pharmacy domain to understand how and what we could play with the drugs, and probably what kind of a difference that we could make to this particular domain. So let's start. I mean, I would like to address all my students, all my fellow colleagues, my peers, my seniors, all pharmacists and non-pharmacists today with just two particular things that I would like to speak upon. One is where we started with pharmacy, age-old time. Gone is a time when we used to say, pharmacist, acha wo compounding wala. So this is the way the general impression is. Probably abhi bhi rural setup mein that kind of impression would still continue, but it's all gone. But even then I used to tell that compounding used to make that difference. There's big difference. There are many students who get into pharmacy just because they did not get into medical. But like it or not, it's a boon if they come into pharmacy, is because it's magic how you could play with the same drug in many ways. It's you who going to be understanding how does this play within your body, and probably your body and my body, the play would be little different, right? So the psychology behind how it acts upon and probably how I react to it is something that is wonderful. You can swim through it. And this science which we study of how what the drug does to the body and what the body does to the drug is so phenomenally beautiful. It's something that I would love the God who has created this kind of science, and it's fun learning it. And when you get into this particular program, forget about compounding, forget about dispensing. Believe me, we are a generation older. And a few generations before, when we passed out our pharmacy, we used to have a subject which was called as posology. which used to be taught in dispensing pharmacy. And believe me, you know, we used to by heart those BID kya hota hai, TID kya hota hai, Latin, why do you want to understand that? Because that's how they used to have it written on their prescription also. I'm sure today's syllabus, we do not have those things being learned, but it was fun to even learn that, because we understood how best the language of a physician could be translated by a pharmacist. So we could feel that right from the time, it's all man created, that, you know, what a pharmacist should do, where he stands in a society, what should a doctor do, where he stands in a society, it's all man-made. But believe me, right from the time that pharmacists came into an origin, the point was they used to work hand in hand with the physician. Until what was written by him cannot be interpreted well by you as a pharmacist, it is of no use. So as equal is for you to identify or diagnose what's the problem, the same kind of importance it is for you to read what it has been written and to be dispensing the way it has been prescribed. So it's so wonderful that there are two sides of a coin, you know. There are two sides of a coin. And with today's scenario, the things are totally different. You understand how we are living today. Probably we were meeting virtually, and the last 1.5 years, everything has been going on in this virtual world. But I can tell you that this also has reposed the confidence that nothing is impossible. When this pandemic came into existence, everybody was like, you know, what will happen? Would it be a 0 year? How do I do this particular program? How do I study? How do I pass? How do I seek admission? How do I go to the institute? Except for coming to the institute, everything else is going as per normal. So learning that this is the new normal and to live on with the change, I would love my fellow pharmacists to understand and adapt to this changing environment. Right from the time those compounding days, dispensing days are fading off, even today, some doctors who are of the old school of thoughts, they do continue with the same, but we do not see it very often. So majority of the times you would see that this compounding and dispensing has gone from the world of pharmacy today. Not much, especially when you have physicians having their own dispensary, except for in hospitals, where still you do have this concept that I'm talking about. But you look into this sector of industrial pharmacy, how much it has changed. Why am I talking about industrial pharmacy is only because we in India predominantly prepare our pharmacists more oriented towards industrial pharmacy. Probably it's just a decade before we have started orienting ourselves towards clinical pharmacy. What do I mean by these two? Only difference between these two is you go to a doctor, you go to a hospital in US, for example, go to a hospital in US, and probably after you've been spoken about and the doctor interacts with you and has finished with the diagnosis, would give the diagnosis to the pharmacist, the choice of drugs, the regimen of the drugs is decided by the pharmacist. Okay. Today, we say that we are not getting that kind of status in the hospitals in India. Are we equipped with these kind of skills? I get scared studying biopharmaceutics in the 3rd year. And I just wish when would the semester get over and this biopharmaceutics would get out of my head, right? So where the kind of exposure, where the kind of training to our students is not developing the pharmacists towards this kind of a knowledge where we would be equipped to understand, oh, the doctor has told that he suffers, the diagnosis says he suffers from XYZ. So probably these are the classes of drugs that I have been knowing. And for this particular person who is probably obese, a senior citizen, bestowed with not only one, with a group of diseases, this is the class of drug that I would select. And looking into the height and weight, probably this dosage regimen is going to make more effect in the body of this particular patient. I have not prepared my students to be that way. But understand that we are more today oriented towards industrial pharmacy. We've just an orientation towards clinical pharmacy. And that's the reason, if you look into, when the whole world was into the global melt and, there was a recession that was going on, India was a country, because of its pharmaceutical sector, was one which was standing so stern and so firm, was only because our industrial sector was very robust. Although the drug development goes behind, we do not have more new drugs, and no kind of eureka to say that we have a new drug molecule which has been synthesized and has been studied and it's going to have a miracle in the market. Although, yes, we are a little slow and we have a setback in this particular domain due to various reasons, not a point of discussion on this platform. But at the same time, the generic market that we hold is one of the largest. You look into the domain of how the generic market has developed. How is this pharmaceutical sector in terms of the industrial pharmacy has developed, and that's the reason which is going to be so booming. And that's the reason in last a few years, even the Pharmacy Council of India, dear students, Pharmacy Council of India, by now that you have enrolled yourselves, you are going to be pharmacists. Some of you are pharmacists and teaching, are in industry, should understand that Pharmacy Council of India is the apex body who governs pharmacy education and the profession in India. With due respects to Pharmacy Council of India, they took up this initiative to actually revamp this particular syllabus and also orient our students more towards clinical pharmacy. Was then the introduction of clinical pharmacy and drug interactions, pharmacovigilance, pharmacy practice, etc., subjects that were got within the syllabus, so that the student understands and holistically is being learning the kind of syllabus which will orient them equally towards industrial pharmacy as well as clinical pharmacy. Just to cite an example, I used to take a lot of lectures for Maharashtra State Pharmacy Council, where we did have sessions taken in for small groups of community pharmacists who once upon a time did their diploma or their degree and they got their license and of course had their drugstore, and all through their life they have been banking upon the knowledge that they learned during their diploma or their degree. So in Maharashtra, we actually came up with a policy which said that these community pharmacists should continuously be updating their knowledge and also should be knowing about what are the new dosage forms and what are the pros and cons of each class of drugs, and how could they be abreast with the kind of knowledge that they should be in this changing environment. And believe me, we used to go to segments like Satara, Sangli, and especially speak to the community pharmacists, because that was the belt in Maharashtra, that is the belt in Maharashtra, where we have more prevalence of HIV, more occurrence of people who have been detected with AIDS because of, again, various reasons, highway, truck drivers and all that. Okay, whatever the reasons are, the point of me talking about that was these lectures which we used to give used to be very simple lectures on topics which you and me would have been hearing every day. For example, tuberculosis, for example, diabetes, for example, hypertension, nutrition and health, some simple existing prevalent diseases what we used to speak. But when we spoke about these topics, we used to talk about the occurrence, we used to talk about the prevalence in that particular region, and then in Pan India. Then we used to come to the drugs that are generally used as classical drugs. We used to talk about the pros and cons of the drug. We used to also talk about which are those drugs which are mostly selling in the market for this particular disease. And then we used to actually mold them into some kind of activities where we used to check Are they aware of some kind of interactions which could happen? If this drug is taken with something, if the drug is taken before food, if the drug is taken after food, what is most effective? Is the pharmacist aware of it who's going to be dispensing these drugs in the pharmacy? And believe me, those workshops that we held was so important for those pharmacists that even for asthma or probably the COPD or these bronchial diseases that we have, they were actually happy that there was somebody to demonstrate how the drug acts. How do you need to take this drug? What do you mean by an actuation? I'm not asking for the textual description, but how is it? Colloquially, how do you explain it? There are so many things. Tuberculosis, we feel proud. Oh, we are the first, largest in the country. Not necessary to be the highest for such things at least, but still we proudly say. But do you understand that why are we that way? What is the repercussion? How do we face this challenge? Today, if you talk about, are you aware of how many people are hypertensive in this country? You might give me an approximation, but do you have any kind of a registry? Do you ever have your BP recorded in some kind of a medical record? No. There is no kind of data that can give us how many people are hypertensive in the country. Probably how many people are diabetic in the country. It's just an approximation from people who go, and probably they go themselves and get registered and then get themselves tested and treated and so on and so forth. So there is the place where I felt that what are we doing as a pharmacist? I used to love these sessions. But unfortunately, time was a constraint, and I passed it on to few more energetic faculty members who have more energy than me, who have more time than me, and who are also very enthusiastic, who would go to places, speak to people. This is something that, you know, a pharmacist can ever do in the place where you stay. If you could even spread this across your society, forget your society, your building. Who are the people? What are they taking? What help do they need? Have they been told properly? What am I coming to? This is something called as a concept which is called as pharmaceutical care. We are in the world of pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceutical care is a concept which, of course, WHO has got its own definition. WHO got its definition of pharmaceutical care propagated when they defined something called as quality of life. I'm not asking you all to sit and brood because you got a disease. Assume. It's just an example. It's not that I tell a person who is suffering from HIV, oh, you're healthy, you're going to be cured. I don't mean that. But what I mean to say is that the period that you live life, live good life, live life. That's what you say is improve your quality of life for the amount of time that you're going to be living. This is something called as a high quality related life. How do you give that to a person? If a person, suppose I took up this HIV, so let me continue with this HIV. I was doing a project when I was working for my PhD dissertation on HIV. And believe me, when I used to go to the place where HIV people were counseled and they were asked to improve their lifestyle and attend to few lectures, believe me, it's such a big stigma, even in an educated and economic capital like Mumbai, that when I used to even be ready to shake hands with an HIV positive person, the person used to be so apprehensive and he used to pull back his hands and say, no, ma'am, I don't want to shake hands. So that kind of a fear, when we all know that it doesn't pass through me shaking hands, but still that stigma is there in the society. Okay, still the stigma is there. How do you remove the stigma? How do you actually care for a person? Pharmaceutical care is nothing else but pass on your knowledge in a way that the person feels that he is being cared for. Today, that is what is required. You understand the ratio of the doctors to the patients is more than 1:500 in India. Even to bridge this gap between the doctors and the patients, you're going to take ages. You're going to take decades. And by the time you reach that, you will have more number of patients because of n number of reasons. Again, not a platform to be discussed. So my point of, again, objective is this gap that you have between the number of patients and the number of doctors. Who's the person who's going to be filling in? The paramedics and we pharmacists. I'm not asking you to step into anybody's shoes. Please don't misunderstand me. Be proud to be a pharmacist. What can the pharmacist do? You have a big arena where you can be acting upon in different roles. And in pharmaceutical care, you can step into depending upon what is required in the society, in a hospital, in a pharmacy, anywhere that you are in various ways. Today, the doctor, as I told you, you go to a consultant and you say that I have so and so. You first go get a card made in any hospital. After the card has been made, you make the payments and all that. That is secondary. You meet one of the doctors who would take up all your patient history. After having the patient history, he will pass it on to his senior, who is also a junior doctor. And then he will have a pressy writing. Whatever he has written, he will pressy write it and he will get it to a very crisp 4 bulleted point of what he has identified in you. And then this file gets presented to the doctor when you understand, oh, now he is the doctor, or again, I have to wait to meet somebody. So the third person in the queue, you are tired answering, and then you feel, oh, this is the way. Acha, this is right. Whatever has been listed, 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points. Is it right? Okay, fine. He has understood what it is. Again, it is passed on to these 2 doctors who would meet you for some more amount of time and then give you the prescription, then give you maybe whatever is the consultation, whatever is the expertise of doctor. You do not get that feel because the doctor doesn't have time to spend with you. And until there is somebody who spends time and makes you understand what is it, it's not that you're going to die early, tomorrow morning you're not going to live. There are people who have lived with HIV from 1 year to 10 years to 50 years. It's how long you can prolong and you can build up your immunity that the opportunistic diseases do not attack you. So your alternative arrangement is make your immune system strong, which is again very evident today. You do not understand. We've been closed for 2 years and with the census say that the number of cases that are going on rising. You don't understand why. You don't understand when is going to be the plateau or the decline, and you never know when things are going to come back to normal and we meet each other face to face. But again, the point of discussion would be we need to live with the new normal. When such things happen, we as educated people need to understand that the impact of what has already affected us is going to stay on for few years. So how are we going to cope with this? We have to have certain norms which are going to be the changed norms, and that is what is going to be inculcated within us as self-discipline. And this is going to be there whether you like it or no. I was pretty surprised and taken aback and of course a little dejected when the frontline workers of COVID, pharmacist was absent. I don't understand why pharmacist was absent. I have already raised this on various platforms where I can raise, but where I couldn't see the pharmacist and the mention of pharmacist. Not that I need to be putting myself into the nurse's shoe or the physician's shoe, but a pharmacist could have played a very vital role here, hand in hand, because most of the cases which are being spoken about and discussed and documented and being read was only because of the mental agony of this particular pandemic. COVID-19, corona virus means the person is scared. Arey, what is it? What is the level of infection? Are you asymptomatic? Are you symptomatic? If you are asymptomatic, what would happen? How do you take care? There are so many things, but nobody was ready. There was no pharmacist in picture, where at least we could play a role in our society where people accept us. But we need to be prepared in terms of our domain knowledge. If you are prepared in terms of your domain knowledge, you do an in-depth study, you are very equipped with all what happens in the world of drugs, you're totally aware in the science, you would be the best person who would be loved to be spoken to by anybody. May it be a healthy person to improve his health, or probably an ailment, a person who is having some ailment, to understand how he can get cured. If he can't get cured, how he can be managed in this disease. So the person who would be the most loved, I am biased, you might say I'm judgmental, but it's the best profession that I have ever heard of. You expose yourself to a doctor, he only restricts himself to diagnosis. You expose yourself to a lawyer, he only knows about the cases that he is dealing with a direction only towards law. If you are taking into any profession you take, it's very focused. Or a pharmacist has a multi-dimensional factor, right from what happens in the normal body to the pathophysiological state to biochemistry to chemistry to physics. I used to understand, I used to wonder, why do I need to know physics when I'm doing pharmacy? Nobody told me I need to do physics. But when I learned physical pharmacy, I understood the importance of physics. So imagine so many things that comes into my mind. I play with a normal tablet into a nano formulation and I see that the dose is reduced to more than 50%. And what wonders it creates. I don't need to remember it taking thrice a day. I may take it once a week and my duty is done. Or what more do you need for a person who is too busy or person who is so forgetful? Absolutely. What do I do? Maybe I can change the way the drug looks like. I can change the way the drugs taste like. I can change the way the person needs to be taking, when the person needs to be taking, how the person needs to be taking. I can also make the person aware of, if you take it before, this is what happens. If you take it afterwards, this is what it happens. And that's the reason, dear, all of you, I would say this is the best profession because it's multi-directional. In any walk of life, whether you are a child, whether you are neonatal, whether it's a child, infant, whether it's an adult, whether you are in your adolescence, whether you are in your senior citizens cohort, any age factor, any age group, you play a role. You ask for, and we can speak, go on and on and on. And the best part is, it is different with you and it's different with me. Both are humans. What more do you need? This is the science where I'm learning how to channelize my brain and talk about drugs, right? I could also talk about use and abuse of drugs. I could talk about so many things, but this is a day where I keep reminding myself that even if you are, however busy you are, wherever you are, whichever profession ultimately you choose, even after becoming a pharmacist, I think you should be giving something back to the society in whichever way you could give. As a pharmacist, you should be talking pharmaceutical care, patient counseling. These are some domains which are absolutely unexplored. You don't need to be swimming into the profession to be spreading these things. It's all on your individuality, wherever you are, however you are, you could do that. And that's why when you talk about pharmacist oath, you say that you swear by the code of ethics, you know. The moment you say that, I have goose pimples, I'll tell you. The reason why, because you need to understand that the moment you take this oath, you're promising to the society that you will be a part in pushing, in removing the problems that exist in the healthcare sector today, which would aid in some way to the betterment of the society, to elevate this particular the care, the pharmaceutical care that we have been talking about, to make the person understand what he is suffering from and what could get benefit to this person. And ultimately, whatever, in whichever way that I do it with ethics. Of course, ethics should be imbibed as an inherent quality in whatever you practice. But when you're talking about dispensing drugs, you're talking about manufacturing drugs, you're talking about the market of drugs, you're talking about hospitals, you're talking about anything that is related to a profession, You need to decide what is ethical, what would be acceptable, and what would be respectful. So this is all a very subjective discussion, but I'm sure that you as fellow pharmacists, all my students, I miss being within my student community, but I'm sure all of you would definitely play a major role, if not play till today. You would play a major role from today on. And I'm sure by the next Pharmacist Day, World Pharmacist Day, we would have a big list where in the introduction, I would like to listen to what did School of Pharmacy do in spreading these principles to the community around. Although we are not meeting face to face, although we might continue for few more days, few more months virtually, how did you make a difference to your society in whichever way that you could make, small or big, but appreciated by the society, not generic, but as a pharmacist. As a pharmacist, what did you do? Many a times, even small things like when is the last day, expiry date? How do you look into the strip? I do not know how many of you all have even bothered to see. From where do you start removing your tablet in the strip, from top, bottom, side? There is a way to do that because the expiry date has a place where it is being printed. You shouldn't remove it first. All these are simple things. You spread it across your family, your society. That would be a great help. And try and see that all these interactions and all the depression kind of thing because of the phobia of pandemic that is developed more than the pandemic would be eased by you students, you colleagues as pharmacists. So this is where I thought probably for a few minutes that I could share and I could speak and I could even revive some of my memories and also remind myself that what I need to be doing, where I owe a lot to the society and as a pharmacist need to give it back to the society. So thank you very much and all the very best to all of you and do well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the very insightful talk. Our audience is sending in their questions and we'll take them up now.
Sure.
Yes. So the first question is, what advices would you give to the young and upcoming pharma graduates who are regarded as the torchbearers of the industry?
I just said that because we are pharmacists and especially today, we do not have a single narrow domain that we need to focus on. So you are very blessed because you're coming into an era of pharmacy where you have a plethora of opportunities lined up, but it should depend upon where your interest lies in. Is it somewhere you want to get into total research where you would really help in getting some breakthrough path, some research that would really get India into forefront? Would you like to get into a sector which is in manufacturing sector? Would you like to get into a system which is mostly dependent or regulatory framework? Would you be in a system where you would like to get into something on clinical research where it's fun to look into how it is acted on the animals and now let's understand how it acts on humans? Okay, so that extrapolation, you imagine how interesting it would be. Of course, we are not very much forward in clinical. So do you want to get into the generic market, maybe manufacturing or probably bioequivalence? Leave alone all these things. Would you like to get into a hospital as a hospital pharmacist? Even in the hospital, you have so many, you have sterile department, you have your pharmacy, you could be a counselor. Today, you see all hospitals have started employing clinical pharmacists in their hospitals. So any kind of domain that interests you, but you need to have passion towards whatever you select. Because only if you have passion, would you have commitment, would you have good output in whatever you do. So you all are blessed. Youngsters have a lot of opportunities and I'm sure each one of you can pick up, and still there is a lot of opportunities. So there's nothing like cannibalizing each other's opportunities and each other's space in the society. Each one of you would have enormous scope. So select from all domains whatever is attractive to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have two questions on similar lines, so I'll club them, which is, what is the role of pharmacists beyond pandemic? And the other question is, amidst the pandemic, how effectively pharmacists have embraced their role as a frontline care providers? Which
you touched upon my dukhi thing, you know, because I was very much upset when frontline workers, pharmacists was not being included, and or probably it was totally pharmacist was absent from all this, which was being propagated as frontline workers, and more through when even the vaccination schedule was being arranged for nurses and for the doctors. I was again taken aback, saying that the pharmacists were people who had their chemist shop open for the people who were suffering, and won't they be also to be a part of the list where they need to be vaccinated first? I can't be neglecting them, because of them was the dispensing of drugs. Because of them was the manufacturing of drugs. Because of them was the initiation of vaccination or the vaccine. Forget vaccination, vaccine which came into existence. The regulatory people because of whom they came into existence. So pharmacist was not in the forefront at all. Keeping a queue of this, we should be, at least, we are not policy makers. We could just raise in at appropriate forums where we could at least pose our concern that this is what has not been appreciated by pharmacists in India. At the same time, what could we do post-pandemic is a very good question. I'm sure you in your own class, in your own family, would have seen this kind of a fear which actually gets into minds of people, and that acts more than the virus by itself. I'll just give you an example. When I used to take one of my lectures, I used to talk to students saying that, a person who was educated but still had no hope on the nature of cure for the ailment that he was suffering, and ultimately gets some solace and goes to some Baba. Ajkal many spiritual leaders are there, and goes to some Baba, and then he gets to understand that I went to Baba and a miracle happened. I got cured. Now, as if the Baba has some magical wand in his hand. I tell students, it's not because of what he went to Baba and Baba had some magical wand. It is a faith that he had in Baba, and where he was just asked about what he had, and probably a very generic kind of bhashan, or probably a motivation that was given to him was making the difference in his immune system. And believe me, your adaptive immune system would work as you want it to work, and so it's called as adaptive immune system. Your inherent immune system is one, but your adaptive immune system is somewhere where you permit it to have. So the more positive things that you speak in terms of when you have a cancer, when you have AIDS, when you have HIV, all this, your CD4 cells get most activated because you have a feeling you could fight it up. This is where I want the exploration and the kind of propagation that a pharmacist could do. It is no magic. Cure lies within yourself. Destiny is destiny. Nobody can fight destiny. But at the same time, there is something that you could do it by yourself. You don't require a third person to do, because the solution is within yourself. This is where I want people to be, number one, confident and spread positivity, and scientifically spread positivity, not just like that. That is where I feel a role of pharmacist. And of course, all you students would make a lot of difference. Start from your own family, your friends, I'm sure the number of cases of depression and phobia and the fear to pandemic will reduce. Accept it as a new normal and fight it out. Let's see what happens. Virus will mutate. We will have more solutions, nothing more. Okay.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Well, we'll take up one last question.
Okay.
Yes. Since the theme for today is transforming global health, what are the various opportunities that need to be looked into for accomplishing the same, transforming global health?
Health is wealth. We've been learning from KG or first standard or primary. Okay. So you need to be deciding, do you need to invest on wealth and spend the wealth on your health in your future, or probably invest on your health where you don't need to spend your wealth on health, but you could spend your wealth on what you wish to in your later times. So best is, how do you transform that is a very intelligent question. Because today, not blaming anybody, but we have become so busy. Lifestyle has become like this, not only in metro cities, but if you look into even in your villages, the lifestyle has changed. Okay. For whatever reasons, good or bad, yes, we say we are progressing, we're becoming more modern, and we are embracing technology to an extent, but there are advantages and disadvantages to both the things. As we are advancing, we understand that the physical activity, the physical and the mental health is being ignored. At the cost of what? So come what may, however busy you are, whatever stress levels, what is stress? Pharmacists should know. It's a level of cortisol being produced within the body. When you learn your adrenal glands, that will come into picture. So the amount of cortisol is what you are facing. Maybe the amount of cortisol which causes stress in your body, my body is different. Why? Because it is in my mental setup that I can do it. It's not stress. It's something that I love to do and I would do it. But the physical ability is something that nobody can be challenging, because ultimately body is a machine. So these different ways to look at it. So basically is change your thinking and try and broaden your thinking to a way which would also support your modernism, support technology, and support being healthy. That's where I can say.
Thank you for answering the questions, ma'am.
Thank you very much for being so patient in hearing and having a lovely smile.
Thank you, ma'am, for taking out time despite your busy schedule. We are beyond honored to know your thoughts and perspective, and I'm sure that audience is motivated and inspired. Thank you to NMIMS University Student Council for giving me this opportunity, and a heartfelt gratitude for everyone for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. I wish all of you all the very best. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.